We can start right away. So Ted, thank you for joining us today. So we are doing this short videos, interviews with every partner and Younergy Crypto Community to highlight the various aspects of Younergy Crypto. So maybe, thank you. So maybe, yeah, just give us a bit of an intro where you come from and your background about how you went into Younergy and then Younergy Crypto.
Wonderful, Sebnem. So my history and experience with solar, renewable energy, and carbon offsets goes back many, many years. I had my first involvement with solar in the mid-90s when I joined Siemens Solar Industries in California. Siemens was a company I had been working for quite a number of years at that point in time. And this opened up the whole world of renewable energy to me at a period of time when it was absolutely emerging. We were building, for instance, solar panels for satellites and space stations and whatever. It was a specialty application. But then it began taking really off with the ambition of particularly Germany to launch a rooftop-based program based on feed-in tariffs. And already at that point in time, there was, of course, some presence of the impact of the environmental impact that this topic has overall. And as this whole topic progressed, it became my life. I remained involved with renewable energy very much over time. And it was actually then when I moved on, I moved back to Europe from California and joined the Precious Woods Group and became involved in sustainable forestry that was operating large sustainable forestry for stewardship council projects located in Central America and South America and also Africa, that the carbon offsetting opportunities of such projects became much more of interest. And at that time, I was actually part of a team that pioneered the creation of carbon offsets in the context of sustainable forestry. And as this all moved on, the urgency of mitigating climate change and finding new opportunities, real opportunities to have a real impact on greenhouse gas emissions became a topic increasingly at the forefront. And I had been very much involved in these topics. We were actually, we pioneered the emission of carbon offsets. In this context, had very good success also by looking at energy applications that utilize, for instance, recovery wood, avoiding methane emissions. And this gained momentum over time and today has been adopted and has become mainstream in the context of renewable energy and many other environmentally beneficial projects.
And how did you get together with Pedro, who's the founder and CEO of Younergy? I know you've been there since the beginning as well.
Well, September, it had always been our philosophy after I left the corporate world and created my own renewable energy company. It had always been our philosophy to pursue renewable energy projects in a very sustainable way. And that for us, that meant only implementing rooftop projects. So not, building up green space for renewable energy, but very strictly focusing on installing rooftop solar sites. That became a topic that we really understood, built software for. We launched projects in various regions in Germany and in the UK, as we'll talk about later. And in 2015, I was introduced to Pedro as an entrepreneur who had just started off. The first time I met him was December 2015, together with his co-founder, Manuel. And they had this vision of rolling out a rooftop solar program in Switzerland, and we're looking for a partner to facilitate this, to help them roll out that program and also provide the financing and additional benefits to that program. We were perfectly well matched with our history in rooftop solar in various other countries. And we jumped on board and pretty much from the get-go, from December 2015, committed to finance every single project that he could develop in that market. And since then, we've been on this journey together. Younergy has developed in a very encouraging and vibrant manner. And a very fortunate confluence is that with my background in carbon offsets from sustainable forestry, with my background in solar, going back to the 90s with Siemens Solar, I was able to bring some additional elements to this whole project that he had developed, and demonstrate that we can not only roll out solar in an economically viable manner in a distributed environment, bring in renewable energy to where it is actually used and needed by individual homeowners, but also bring the benefit of offsets to this whole environment. So since then, we've been on this journey together and jointly developing this project.
No, it was really cool to when Pedro brought you in, saying we have an investor and then a long-term advisor who is in crypto. I wasn't expecting the whole range that you bring in. So we are indeed very fortunate to have you also in Younergy Crypto as an active participant and someone who brings in all this experience. And also we have a common background in Siemens.
Yes,
that's
true.
Also where I say as a computer scientist, everything I learned about decentralized energy, I learned from Siemens engineers. So that was another common point. However, I mean, you really helped shape and also help us advance and progress at crucial points, basically, in the beginning, also with all the different options we have, because the design space is huge when we think about tokenizing real-world assets like solar. We had all these sparring sessions with you, Ted, with you, Pedro, of course, but also Rhino. At the same time, going more into what the crypto carbon ecosystem was doing and expecting. We did these crypto carbon ecosystem events to reach out and learn how the Web3 participants are looking at making use of the tokenized values of solar, both the financial values, but also the environmental value. And it was super interesting when we were doing the first ecosystem event in Lisbon, where also the first pool of solar projects that YC is going to finance will be in Portugal. So while we were doing this, we were getting feedback of that Web3 participants are directly interested in tokenized carbon in their wallets to offset their Web3 related activities and so on. And in our collaborations with Energy Unlocked, the YoYo app that looks at efficient use of available solar power, we learned that in UK, we have 30-minute high resolution carbon intensity data, meaning in UK, the grid operator publishes this information 30 minutes. And this was exactly the type of data that we wanted to use to calculate the carbon emissions avoidance from solar power production. And while we were sparring how we could create a quick MVP and test this, test the integration with the solar asset management system that you have in Younergy, that's when you said also at the same time that you do have actually UK portfolio of solar projects that we could make use of to test the integration that we built with live data coming from this UK schools. Maybe I'll share here my screen so people can also follow what we have been doing, but maybe you can also explain a bit about these solar, about the solar projects in UK that you have.
I would be really happy to. Our UK involvement is really, really exciting. When I left Siemens and started then my own independent solar business in 2011, we were immediately attracted to the UK. Why? Because the UK has taken a very progressive approach regarding global warming and offsetting greenhouse gas emissions. It's a wonderful environment, and they had initiated incentive schemes for rooftop solar that we found very attractive. And we saw a tremendous opportunity to bring multiple benefits to all of the stakeholders. So in the UK, on the one hand, of course, you have this educational environment with lots of facilities, often not highly energy efficient, saddled with fairly high energy bills. Based on the UK programs to incentivize rooftop solar, we were able to develop a model whereby the schools could use power that they generate through rooftop solar at a lower cost than bringing in the energy from the grid. So that's an economic benefit for the schools. On top, what's very interesting in schools are typically used during the day, and during the day is when you have solar radiation, so it all matches up nicely. So you have a great environmental benefit due to the fact that this energy doesn't have to be distributed out throughout the grids and then used somewhere else, but about 70% of it is used on site at a typical UK school, and that's very good, between 70 and 75%. And that led to a very good uptake. And then on top, the schools in the UK, in terms of their educational program, are keenly interested in providing students with access to know-how about solar, renewable energy, and so on. So all of these sites that we have that we have on these schools in a distributed environment can also be made accessible to the students to learn about renewable energy. So you have a triple benefit. You have the economic benefit for the schools themselves, for the business manager, and then you have the environmental benefit via the offsets, and finally, of course, you have the social benefit that the students can become engaged and involved in this technology. Now, in terms of the carbon offset and the granularity of information, UK is also leading in this area. Most countries will look sort of at the general blended carbon load of their energy grids, and the UK is very progressive. They have platforms and tools in place to arrive at a 1.5 hour granularity. And looking at all of this together with you, Sebnem, driven of course by your innovative approach, we said, wow, we have all this granular data. On the other hand, we have the very exact and precise management of the sites by the UK's the management tool that we put in place to run the UK portfolio. And then on top, and this is that really, fired a booster behind our project, was that with the blockchain, you actually have the opportunity of representing the value in a very transparent way.
Exactly.
That and with low cost, that had not been possible in my previous carbon projects. In my previous carbon projects, I had to go through UN bodies, government agencies, extremely complicated, and you could do this maybe for 300,000 tons or 1 million tons of GHG offsets. But now with the emergence of the blockchain and the tool set that you have available with within this environment, the Web3 and the crypto, you actually have the opportunity in a very efficient manner to encapsulate these benefits and transact them. So that all came together. It was really a very fortunate confluence of various factors. So yourself coming with this background in distributed environments and ecosystems, myself distributed energy, both of our general awareness of the opportunities that would be available. And then on top, of course, this UK portfolio of 52 schools that we had developed with all of the data available, a very supportive environment in the UK to be able to actually deliver on this program.
Exactly.
So that's what led to this great opportunity, and we made it happen. You made it happen.
we made it happen, and we still need the Web3 participants who care about their carbon footprint, and who also care about really showing what is technically possible using data-driven open APIs. So this is, again, why we set out to have this limited edition YCo2 sales. I will just recap what you just mentioned, everything on the screen as well. So the data about the carbon intensity of UK comes from the grid operator. So this is really innovative. I heard some rumors that we have it in Germany too, so we will keep researching. But we also have access to a data provider where we have to pay for this data, but to make it accessible, imagine, I think that will definitely pay off when we see about the differences in carbon intensity across the locations, but also with every hour. Again, that is what makes the data-driven approach and using blockchain's tokenization really meaningful, is that we don't take yearly average carbon accounting, which can be about 35% off, over or underestimating, but we can go down to the hour. And some of the Web3 participants we're talking to, especially chain proof of stake chain operators, they are interested in this aspect of our ability to measure carbon emissions hourly, because all of the computing data is on chain and is accessible through block explorers. And be coming with the solar production data from Udera. This is the system that we have in Younergy that you have also mentioned. So these are all the school sites. I think one half of the 57 projects, where you can see all the projects performances across the year, and then also you can basically go down to one project like this, right? And you can get all the information. So what we did is we connected a front end to this information, to the API of Udera. And when you go to yc.finance, this is the information that you are seeing. Basically, this is where we connected to Udera. This is the projects that we're getting. For testing purposes, already we also have connections to Portugal. We see already 12 projects coming in there, but in Portugal, we're interested in funding new solar. However, we started with the 57 projects in UK that you mentioned. And again, people can navigate Younergy Crypto, the site, to actually also see, look at the pool structure. Again, we see most of it coming from community category, meaning all of these schools in the community category from UK. This is, again, the MVP, minimally viable product. We also call it minimally lovable product,
Yeah.
because
but it works quite well, actually.
It makes
it's just the minimum. So
exactly, it makes it possible, and also engaging with partners who are not only interested in the real world asset aspect, the financial aspect of installing more solar, but also specifically in the environmental aspect of having solar roofs on commercial, industrial, and community buildings. Now, from here, again, we have the connection to Udera. We have the carbon intensity data, and this is how we are calculating the carbon credits. And anyone can buy here by connecting their MetaMask carbon credits directly. I will also just show the interface, and then we have some more things that we can discuss about that here. Just saying that between 2017 and 2022, this is the limited edition that we made. People can buy carbon credits through minting using the YCo2 contract directly on Gnosis Chain. To mint their carbon credits as much or as little as they want. I typically offset flights, so I mint around hundreds of kilograms at once. And we have the high resolution data, as I mentioned, available from 2017 and later, because this is where the data from UK grid operator is available. Before that, what we use is just the yearly average carbon intensity for UK. That is the typical best you can get out there. But again, the limited edition that we use, you have the option to choose between the less granular data. That means you still have the 30-minute solar production, but the carbon intensity of the grid is assumed to be that average yearly number. And if you go to more granular, then you can offset basically for 125 XDI per ton. So if I just wanted to offset a carbon, a flight of 320 kilograms, I would pay 40 XDI for this offset. And this is something we also do differently. Number one, it's a conversation starter, and we definitely want to have, first of all, speak to early adopters who really value that we are at the technological edge, at the innovative edge of high quality carbon credits that are data driven and down to 30 or hourly data. As well as we want to test what in an A/B testing manner, what do people really care about, whether the granularity, again, if you go for low granular, if you didn't value that so much, you would still pay 75 XDI. And the other reason for this is that we are showing additionality, that these carbon credits you are using to offset your carbon footprint. The revenue, number one, continues to develop this innovative solution, Younergy Crypto, that you are part of. When you are an offsetter, you become part of the community. And whatever revenues we don't need to make the next milestone as a community, we use the YC token, that is the participation token, to fund more solar rooftops. Meaning if we reach the entire selling off of the limited edition carbon credits of this edition, we will have around 260K, and we only need 67K to get to the next milestone, which is all audited contracts with YC token and revenue share are deployed and live and tested and audited. That would mean we're free to make the next stage, which is the funding of new solar in Portugal. And if the community helps us get there through this awareness campaign that we need to value high quality carbon credits much higher, not just because they're worth it, but also because we need to set incentives that people actually invest in more renewable solar or get their electricity from renewable sources, do energy efficiency processes and so on, that the companies are more incentivized to actually go green entirely in their production, manufacturing, and so on, and not just buy some certificates, right? This is what we want. And also as individuals, us, again, we're showing as an example on the right-hand side, actually only meaningful offset a plane flight. And what we're saying, you could, take a train and you wouldn't even have to think about offsetting. So anything below 6 hours, we should really think about taking the flight twice. Or again, don't even think about cars and so on. Whenever you can, go public or go by bike. Again, this is to show the carbon credit side or the carbon offset side is more about this climate action and awareness, and we more care about putting more solar rooftops on more buildings, right? Again, we have this token model with the reward schemes that we will go in separate sessions, but I just wanted to add that. And we can nonetheless, Ted, talk a bit about the current carbon pricing. Again, so in our case, this is a limited edition. This is more about finding community of value-aligned early adopters who value funding more solar over having some certificates, but actually also care about the footprint that they cannot reduce. So that's our campaign. However, it's also super interesting to talk about, what it should cost. That's what this 100x Die Now campaign is all about. Climate economists agree that if the carbon credits or carbon offsetting should have an incentive structure, the carbon ton needs to cost at least $100 now to be able to function as an incentive scheme to reach net zero in 2050. Again, we're dealing with, it's not about financialization, it's about creating incentives. And here, this is our awareness campaign and gathering value-aligned early adopters through the limited edition. However, as I mentioned, there are interested parties who say, we want to offset our computing on-chain, for example, through carbon credits, but what is it worth? Like, this is just a limited edition and an awareness campaign, but what should be one carbon ton really worth? And maybe you can tell a bit more about what you think and also your experience, how the carbon pricing developed. Here I have some examples about mandatory compliance market pricing and the voluntary carbon market, but maybe you can tell a bit more there.
So sort of in the big picture and over time, over the past decades, these carbon markets launched initially with voluntary markets.
Mm-hmm.
And those were actually the very first markets that I had experience with, going back to the early 2000s. We were able, as our very first project at the time that I was in forestry, to issue voluntary emission reduction certificates that were traded on the Chicago Climate Exchange. And we were talking there sort of $1 to $2 per ton. And of course, it was more proof of concept and just to drop in the bucket, and not really enough to make a difference to allow us to go back and do more good forestry work. This changed with the emergence of the NGO governed emissions trading schemes. And then with those schemes and with the increasing requirement of various bodies to participate, companies and bodies to participate in these emission trading schemes, the pricing then gradually increased to an area that was more meaningful for at least some projects, sort of in the region of whatever, $15 to $50 per ton. And that allowed projects to actually be pursued and implemented that had immediate and very significant positive impact on GHG. So methane offset projects, for instance, which was one that we were involved in, as I mentioned. Now, when you look in today's environment with the urgency of climate change and the impact of the climate change becoming more visible to all of us every day, obviously, these prices and the activity that is initiated by that pricing level is just not sufficient. And if we really want to build momentum and change behavior and be able to gain momentum and impetus and financing for projects on a broad scale, we need to see a better pricing quality. And one way to go about achieving this, absolutely, is to improve the quality of the carbon offsets, as Sibna, you have demonstrated with this idea to increase the granularity, have more transparency that can only be achieved through blockchain implementation. And then also, I think it's important to keep in mind that the efficiency is also important. So it's not only the price that you can yield on a market, but what is left over for the projects to actually run with that benefit. And when I go back to the days when we were doing carbon offsets for 18 euros from some forestry and energy offset in Brazil, and I think what all of the intermediaries captured, the UN bodies, the lawyers, and whatever. I mean, in the end, we had a couple million that we were able to re-inject, but 20-30% of that got lost on the intermediaries. And a big progress of this platform and this project and what is going on here is that you dramatically improve the efficiency. You're talking, of maybe 50 or 70,000 in development costs left to get this done. Exactly. But look at the multiplier effect that you can achieve. So this is like really a breakthrough to bring carbon to the next level, carbon offset to the next level, and make it so accessible to a broad base in such an efficient manner.
Exactly. I'm also looking forward to that development. I mean, right now there aren't many digital or crypto carbon markets, and interestingly, in my view, the crypto carbon markets have pioneered the digital carbon markets. I think whatever was before was just happy with what they have developed, which is mostly still calling and electronic data, but PDFs instead of paper and so on. And however, right now, how the crypto carbon ecosystem bootstrapped was by connecting to those existing registries. And to be honest, there's just one big registry and 3 or 2 smaller ones. So Vera and Gold Standard are basically the go-to registries or the registries globally. And this is how they started. And again, the credits are older. The methodologies are just models and simulations, so it's not data-driven. And what the crypto carbon markets actually push forth, I believe, is a push towards digitalization also for incumbents. So that's a new conversation that started and won't go like the genie is out of the bottle. That definitely will go this way. However, the community or the ecosystem now also discusses Web3 native credits like YCo2. We are directly at the source of the projects and the data, and whatever values are coming in, whether that's the carbon emissions avoidance or the revenues, we get this data immediately and can tokenize both, right? then the level of matching that you can have can go down to hourly, especially when we're talking about the carbon offsetter on the other side is also a digital native, Web3 native, either person or a DAO or a chain. So that for us definitely is the sweet spot, and we're right there. And the question is, of course, when these protocol and the traders in these protocols like KlimaDAO, their job is the price finding, right? But the price, as you can see, is about $1, and it went higher a little bit in the past. But again, what the traders or price finders tell us is that they don't see that these carbon credits are high quality or should be priced higher than this. So what I'm hoping is that we can start, even if these are niche markets that we are starting, where people can directly offset, that we find price for high quality carbon credits on chain, like the YCo2 credits. Again, the limited edition is more of an awareness campaign, a conversation starter, but we want to find the price that people are willing to pay for this traceability. And the second aspect of traceability is on Gnosis Chain, when you pay with XDAI to offset, you can also follow the XDAI. So you can follow where the money is actually going. And in our case, it goes directly into continued improvement, maintenance of the protocol you're using. And beyond that goes into more solar projects. So
well, that definitely sets the Younergy initiative apart from all of the others that I've seen. This transparency and the traceability is absolutely amazing. It's really direct. There's nothing in between. It's completely transparent, the source of the offsets and the use of the funds. And that is absolutely amazing. And it's built on a mountain of dedication that you, Sebnem, and the team are bringing into this project that I really highly admire.
Thank you.
It really sets the Younergy based offsets apart from the others that I've seen out there.
It does. And again, same goes to the fact that we can actually build on a system. We only needed to connect to the digital solar asset management system, Udera. And
it's
again,
completely backed up. Yeah, that's also, I mean, the unique, it's also part of the story that, I mean, the origins of Younergy are built around this digitalized platform to run decentral energy ecosystems. And it's part of the core value proposition of Younergy in their business of rolling out renewable energy to families. And the availability of all of that data benefits, of course, this whole initiative to tokenize the carbon offsets that are available in this installed base.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely unique, and it's very direct, no intermediaries, and completely transparent. And the topic you brought up, the use of funds, is also extremely fascinating. It goes right back into the development, the audits, the validation of this whole platform, and bringing it even closer to being decentrally managed. So managing the crypto ecosystem decentrally, also putting it in the hands of those who are building these solutions for climate change.
Exactly, of the users. And one aspect I just want to highlight again, what the crypto carbon ecosystem is bringing to the table is this: don't just trust, validate. So the distributed validation, community-based validation of the data that goes into certifying the carbon emissions avoided or reduced, that is also done through open community validation. And it's not something that we invented or anything. It's the nature of crypto. And Open Forest Protocol is the one they started in 2020. And they basically, I would say, pioneered to say, yes, of course, we're going to go native, directly measure at the source of origin of the project. So the projects dock on directly, and they have a community of validators who are incentivized to validate the data and so on. So again, that will be another session we can go directly into. We're working together with block science labs and data scientists who can connect to this data analysis hub that block science labs is. And this is how we manage the distributed and open validation of data. And last but not least, you know, what do we do when the limited edition is sold off, right? We are connecting already other projects, existing projects of Younergy. I mean, Portugal, and there's also Spain portfolio, but also Switzerland is where Younergy started, right? They have until now around 1,800 solar projects live that we could dock onto. But also, you know, maybe you can tell a bit more. So we will go into that in a dedicated session as well. What is the potential of how could we connect to existing solar projects? Because the nice side on the solar industry side is you've been part of it. It's the maturity of standardization and ICT, information and communication technologies that are in use. I don't know if you want to share a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's our ambition, of course, to have a meaningful impact on mitigating climate change with all of our projects. That's been the whole business idea from the start. From when I got involved in 1995 with solar the first time, and now together with these additional teams that I've engaged, and this gains momentum, that is our objective, to have a meaningful impact. And obviously, in terms of now making these carbon offsets available that we're able to access in our install base and with new projects, we obviously would like to focus on areas where we have a higher impact. So obviously those areas where you have somewhat higher loads of greenhouse gases on the electricity infrastructure,
right?
Will drive some of our involvement, and that's why we're looking at some of the opportunities in Southern Europe. However, that being said, due to the fact that it's so efficient, it also makes sense to roll it out in areas that do not have such a high load of carbon in their grids. And it is our intent and ambition to make this tool available throughout our project development. So all areas where we're developing new projects, we can bring it in and use these benefits and apply these benefits to access new projects and fund new projects.
Yeah.
And also in the installed base, to make this available to existing installed base and outside project developers outside of our own organization. So to make this available as a platform for others to then tokenize the offsets that are inherent within their project development pipeline in order to accelerate this project development. So in tangible terms, we're looking at obviously our Portugal and Spanish projects, as mentioned by Sebnem. We're looking to roll this out to also the new owners of our UK portfolio, have an agreement with them to actually do that, as it's very meaningful. And we've agreed with them that there will be returned back to us of a substantial share of those benefits to fund our development. Yeah. And then also one new market that we're looking at and just launching now is also New Zealand, with a specific program looking at schools. Yes. There's a very interesting demand there and interest in improving the energy efficiency of educational facilities in New Zealand, which are not always very energy efficient. So together with the move towards heat pumps, replacing fossil fuel heating, so electrifying the schools and also having more electromobility, that is becoming increasingly interesting also in that market. So we have lots and lots of ideas, lots of opportunities, some markets that we're focusing on with our own development pipeline, and also looking at making this available to also third-party developers, additional
Interesting.
developers. So we're rolling out a partner program in our core business that allows installation partners who really focus on building these things. And that's very important. They add a lot of value. They go up on roofs, install the panels, but maybe don't have access to carbon benefits. They don't have access to finance.
They don't.
And through our platform that we're developing, so we have basically on 3 levels, we have a platform. We have a platform to tokenize the carbon offsets and make these available directly from the project directly to the end user. Then we have a platform that allows very efficient management of many, many, many distributed sites. That's our core IT asset, cloud-based asset management platform. And that is also very efficient and allows this very high value add decentral rollout. And then we have the opportunity for installers to directly access also the financing. So those 3 core pillars, making the carbon offsets accessible in a distributed environment, making the finance accessible in a distributed environment, and also, of course, allowing end users to directly improve their energy ecosystems and change behavior. All of that will have a huge impact on mitigating the effects of greenhouse gas emissions on climate change.
It's amazing if you see the numbers and what scientists and researchers put forth, that about 91% of CO2 emissions were due to fossil fuel and industry consumption of those fossil fuel power. And what we can do is really get rid of 90% of that chunk of CO2 just by renewables and energy efficiency. And I believe with Younergy's scaling focus of commercial and industrial, as you say, going for rooftops of existing big consumers has really the sweet spot of not or utilizing areas that are there on consumption that actually produces the CO2 or causes the CO2.
It's absolutely the way to go. I mean, bring the energy generation to where it's required, and we'll crack the code, to solve these issues by always keeping those 3 dimensions in mind. So the environmental impact, the direct environmental impact, of course, and we need economic incentives. So feeding back the benefits of the offsets back, to the developers will create economic incentives. And then, of course, the social aspects. So facilitating better education and allowing these decentral energy ecosystems to benefit in a way that individuals can take control of their own energy ecosystems. So, always keeping those 3 dimensions in mind and not creating additional knockoff negative effects like building up green spaces to achieve this. That's how we will crack this challenge.
Fantastic.
And your project, or this project, Satnam, is absolutely instrumental to allow this to happen.
So you and I are also definitely power users of Younergy Crypto. So or I started calling us chief activists, because going out there also putting forward, explaining what is technically possible on one hand, right? But then also many really do not know that they can have direct impact on this. They don't have to sit and demonstrate somewhere, or they don't have to pledge to local politicians over years who get re-elected every 4 years. No, we really have the direct power in our wallets, literally. And I am sure that we're going to get this opportunity, this information out there. Younergy Crypto School is one side, but again, just using this protocol and sharing the excitement that we know we have, because we've been in this for quite some time, Ted, I'm not, I'm also quite long, I mean, over a decade in smart grids and decentralized energy, and seeing the last puzzle piece of decentralized finance and business models, participants able to make up their own rules of incentivizing their behaviors for better outcomes, locally, contextually. This is really exciting times, and I'm so happy that our paths crossed, Ted.
It's a wonderful confluence. Yes, thank you so much, Sydney.
Thank you. Good. Then I wish you a wonderful rest of the day, and we talk soon.
Thank you. Happy offsetting. Take care.